Welcome back, everybody. You just heard from Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly, who thinks he's optimistic that the president's executive order, that is this travel ban, travel limitation, whatever you want to call it, will hold. But again, three justices are right now going to decide its fate later today, and maybe within hours come up with a decision and a response. Robert Ray, the former Whitewater Independent Counsel, if you ever studied him during those years, an amazingly calm and reasoned individual. And I don't care whether you're on the left or the right. Those are rare qualities in Washington, period. But anyway, it's very good having you, Robert.
Thanks. Handicap
this for me. You were reminding me, and then I had heard this, that this particular court is often overruled and appealed. Why?
Well, it's the Ninth Circuit. It includes California. It tends to have more liberal judges. You know, it's hard to know in any given case with regard to government power which way that swings. But,
yeah,
you know, in this one,
that they're right-wing, it was a Bush judge,
sure,
right? So you never know.
And you have a panel with a Carter appointee, a Bush appointee, and a third one. I can't remember now who the third one is. But, you know, a three-judge panel will make a call on this. It sounds like the administration doesn't want to, even if they lose, go before an en banc hearing before the Ninth Circuit, that they intend to go directly, if they lose, to the Supreme Court to ask for a stay.
So they have that discretion. If this goes against them, proceed to Supreme Court.
Correct.
And how soon would that be?
Well, I think the first step would be they'd ask for an emergency stay, which could be issued, at least in the initial stage, by the circuit justice, who is Anthony Kennedy. That would only hold until such time as the full court could make a determination about issuing a permanent stay pending review by the Supreme Court. A stay of that order of magnitude would require 5 votes, so you'd have a pretty good sense of what the Supreme Court thought if they issued a stay. To hear the case, it would only require 4 votes, but obviously, if it's a 4-vote by 4-vote resolution, it means the Ninth Circuit's decision would stand.
And that would stand. How likely would it be, then, that Gorsuch, if he's on the court, would be weighing on this very issue?
Well, it's a question of how soon the Supreme Court would hear this. I mean, I think they'd certainly do it before the end of this term. But oral argument would be scheduled. You know, there would probably be applications from the Justice Department for emergency review, which would accelerate things. I mean, if the Supreme Court wants to act quickly, they can act quickly, and they could act more quickly than a justice could be confirmed.
Right? You're talking about the powers of a president. When it goes too far, the president's going to argue, White House has been arguing, these are about national security and safety issues. Do they make a point?
And I think the Supreme Court will likely act. I mean, not clear which way they will act, but they're likely to act quickly.
Now, the administration, to that point, has been arguing we're kind of dilly-dallying at a time when terror is alive and well, and this is a way to sort of, you know, be on the side of, erring on the side of protection, and that the Constitution allows for the president's role in overseeing and protecting that. Do you agree?
Well, they're arguing the merits of irreparable harm. And, you know, a lot of attention has been given to the people who are prevented from entering the country under the executive order and the harm that they suffer. But the administration has a substantial irreparable harm argument about the fact that certain people could be let in, and there's nothing we could do about it if the order is stayed or suspended. So that's the issue that's going to be addressed in the balance of equities. And yes, the administration has a substantial argument. And consistent with Supreme Court precedent going back to 1952, this is the president's prerogative that has been long respected. That is the power of the office of the presidency and executive power and control as commander-in-chief of the borders to secure the homeland. That's the administration's argument.
Now, I think even Secretary Kelly was saying this might have been rushed out too quickly. I think most people have acknowledged that, at the very least, it was speeded up maybe a bit prematurely. He took the bullet for a lot of the problems, even though others are pointing out he was brought into this a little too late, and he was personally not happy with that. But having said that, the fact that protections have since been made for those with green cards and the kind of stuff that usually rankles the technology community, did the president already take care to address those issues?
Well, executive orders can be tinkered with, and to the extent they require you know, further attention, that can be given. But, you know, this is a situation where one federal judge is suspending what amounts to the president's prerogative with regard to an executive order, and that is the legal issue that's going to be tested. Tinkering around the edges is another subject, and, you know, we'll return to that, obviously, once we get to resolve the legal question about whether or not the president's authority carries the day here.
It sounds like you have your doubts that this particular panel will stay on the side of the president, though.
The noises that you seem to be hearing is that the administration is likely going to lose at this level, which is why I think we may end up seeing Supreme Court review, particularly if the government does not prevail in the Ninth Circuit.
All right, and the other way around, the other side would do the same.
Well, you would imagine, but then the
Right.
then the Supreme Court has discretion to deny cert, which they may well do in that circumstance. But in a situation in which the administration loses, the United States loses, my guess is the Supreme Court, this is worthy of their attention.
All right. Robert Ray, thank you, the former Whitewater independent counsel. Very calm read on hot and increasingly heated emotions.